If you're watching this, you're most likely a young man aged between 18 to 35 according to my YouTube analytics, so your goals with going to the gym are most likely to build an aesthetic physique that will attract girls and impress other guys. There's just one thing. You're a busy guy, either with work, school, or both, and you don't want to spend hours every single day going to the gym. You aren't a competitive bodybuilder, you don't want to look like one, you just want to be able to look like you lift enough to become more attractive and confident with your body. Here's the secret. You don't have to spend 2 hours a day, 6 days a week to build the 10 out of 10 physique of your dreams. You don't even need 1 hour in the gym. My name is Julian and I have been building the aesthetic physique for the past 5 years, and for the first 4 years of my lifting journey, I trained exactly how everyone else in the fitness community told me to. 5 to 6 days a week, multiple working sets, about 2 hours at the gym at times. And then I discovered low volume, low frequency, high intensity training styles pioneered by bodybuilders such as Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates, and I built the most muscle in my lifting journey with just 2 to 3 days a week in the gym and 45-minute training sessions. If you have any doubt that such little training frequency is valid or you believe that these methods are outdated, the biggest science-based bodybuilding YouTuber, Jeff Nipper, just released an entire video on how training with lower volume and higher intensity was the best training he had ever done, how science supports it, and how much bigger and stronger he got. This seriously contradicts what made Jeff famous, which was high frequency and high volume training. But we don't need to do that to effectively build muscle, especially when our goal is just to look good and not like a competitive bodybuilder. So here's how to utilize low volume and high intensity training to build an aesthetic physique with little time. I'll give out a quick disclaimer, however. If you're a complete beginner and you want to try this training style, it's going to be hard and not even completely necessary to train all the way to failure or maximum intensity, and you could possibly injure yourself. I would recommend beginners to stick to traditional training for the most part, but that doesn't mean to not push yourself or that anything in this video won't help you out. The most important part of low volume training is having enough intensity, because if you don't give your training 100% effort, you won't receive the benefits of low frequency and low volume. But what does maximum intensity look like? If you are not training to failure, not near failure, not 2 reps in reserve, but all the way to the point where you physically cannot perform 1 more rep with proper form despite your greatest effort, then you're not training with maximum intensity. I didn't even know what true failure was for the first few years of lifting. I, like many of you who may be watching, would just perform as many reps as whatever was written on whatever training program I was following. If I still had more reps left in the tank, I wouldn't go for them because that's not what was written down. And this is the biggest mistake people make once they pass their newbie gains phase and they're in their advanced beginner to beginner intermediate phase. It's like, if your program says do 12 reps but you can still do more, then do more. If you're not pushing yourself, if your last rep of your final working set is not the hardest rep ever, you're not going to build the muscle that you actually want. You're just going to stay plateaued. You're not going to get the gains that you want. So you really need to push yourself mentally more than physically here, and I'll admit that it's harder and scarier to do this when you're training by yourself. Having a training partner to spot you, motivate you, assist you, and even compete with you makes training with high intensity much more enjoyable and easier. You may realize that I've been talking about intensity for a while, even though the title and subject of this video is about saving time in the gym and just building an aesthetic body, not a bodybuilder-like body. You need to completely understand that if you want to save time in the gym while also producing the required stimulus for your muscles to grow, even as just a natural lifter who's training solely for aesthetics, you absolutely have to train with this much intensity. Even if you're not doing low volume and low frequency, regardless of whatever training split you're on, regardless if you want to get absolutely massive or just put on a decent amount of muscle mass, you have to train hard. The muscles will not respond to mediocrity. So now that we understand that we have to train to absolute failure, just how much volume are we doing? You may be thinking that we can't possibly doing multiple sets to failure on an exercise, and you would be correct. We can't have multiple working sets with absolute maximum intensity. That's just going to increase the risk of injury, and each subsequent set is just going to drop in quality. So what if I told you, you just need 1 absolute maximum intensity working set? Emphasis on working, because this doesn't mean you don't do any warm-up sets. If you have any doubts that just 1 set is enough and think guys like Mentzer and Yates are outdated, I again recommend watching Jeff Nipper's video on low volume training. He does 1 to 2 sets, which, while not every single exercise is just 1 set, he even says in the video that for most lifts, he only did 1 all-out max effort set for most exercises. And before watching this video, you were probably doing warm-up sets plus 3 to 4 working sets. After watching this video, you're only going to be doing warm-up sets, and just one all-out working set. Do you see how much time we've already saved with just one absolute max effort set for each exercise? We receive the proper amount of stimulation for our muscles to grow and are able to get out of the gym sooner so we can continue with the rest of our lives. You may be thinking that more volume would build more muscle, but there's a reason you don't see the top bodybuilders in the gym for 24 hours doing hundreds and hundreds of sets, because we know that bodybuilding is an endurance exercise and that muscles aren't built from extreme volume, but from intensity. Your purpose as an aesthetic bodybuilder is to go to the gym, lift weights with enough intensity to stimulate the muscles to grow, go home, eat and sleep to recover, and rebuild to come back bigger and stronger. That is only possible with training as hard as you possibly can and not overtraining with junk volume or extra unnecessary training. This is why you can build the aesthetic physique with just one set per exercise. So now that we've got intensity fully covered, we need to cover the actual volume part besides just the sets. Don't worry, because that one set isn't a trick and you're not going to be squatting the bar for 100 reps. After our warm-up set, we will perform our set with heavy weight and high reps. Now this may sound contradictory because you may have heard that it's either lightweight and high reps or heavyweight and low reps, and that it can never be both. But when people say that, it's usually an extreme on both ends. We're not talking about doing 90% of your 1 rep max for 3 reps, but more like 85% of your 1 rep max for about 10 reps. And now you see why I made that disclaimer in the beginning for beginners, because there's no way a beginner could do that. And now you see why we're only doing one set, because there's no way you can do that for multiple times. Rep range is also entirely dependent on the exercise. Legs are larger muscles and benefit from higher rep ranges like 12 to 15 reps, while the biceps are much smaller muscles and can grow better with 6 to 8 heavy reps. Regardless, just because we're lifting heavy weights, that doesn't mean we're going to be training like a power lifter where we're only doing 1 to 3 reps and taking 5-minute rest breaks. Powerlifting is a different sport. We're aesthetic bodybuilders. We need to train with heavy enough weight that we can lift for enough reps and intensity for the exercise to build muscle growth. Now let's talk about frequency, because we can't train with maximum intensity every single day. The body needs to recover from so much stress. This is also why sleep and diet are so important, which I plan to make a full video on recovery. Let me know if you guys want to see that in the comments. I also have a full module on recovery and testosterone in my Aesthetic Body program, which is the top link in the description. But with regards to frequency, I suggest most guys train at most, not least, at most 3 days a week, because that's even pushing it. And that's not 3 days on, then 1 day off. That's every other day. So Monday, then Wednesday, then Friday. The split I do and that I recommend in my program is chest and back on day 1, arms and shoulders on day 2, and then legs on day 3. I used to do push-pull legs like most people, but I found better results with my current split, and this split is also better when it comes to saving time in the gym, especially compared to something like a full body split. So in conclusion, with just one hard working set on each exercise and low frequency, we can train for about 30 to 45 minutes a day and just about 2 to 3 days a week, which saves way more time and arguably yields better results than the typical 6 days a week, 2 hours a day style of training. We want bodybuilding and lifting to be parts of our life, not take up our entire life. This has been my longest video so far, so let me know if you prefer this or the shorter videos, and if you found this video helpful and want to lock in on building an aesthetic body, I highly suggest checking out my Aesthetic Bodybuilders community. It's the top link in the description where I can answer your questions, you can share posts, and even get a bonus PDF guide on how to take shirtless pictures, all for just $1 a month. Inside, you can also upgrade to my highly detailed program or one-on-one coaching if you seriously want to change your life. Go ahead and check it out when you're ready.